Before the season gets here, I would recommend at least sending one trade offer for every one of these running backs in this video. Of course, feel free to lowball. What's the worst that's going to happen? They say no, but anyway, going into our first running back is going to be very dependent on your overall league and your league mates. If your league mates watch every single YouTube video, if your league mates do the research going into the season, if they are really into fantasy football, don't waste your time sending an offer for Devonhnhnhn, because what I found is those people that are diehard fantasy football, they're valuing Devonhnhnhn as a mid running back one. You see that with his underdog ADP. You see him going at the very top of round 2 in high stakes drafts. And at that price point, to be honest with you, I'm not that in on Achane, right? Because this is a running back that does have red flags. If you look at his size at 188 pounds, we simply have never seen a running back actually go out there and handle a 3-down bell cow workload at that size. So I prefer Jonathan Taylor. I prefer Saquon Barkley, which is where he's going around in those high stakes drafts. Now, on the flip side of this, I actually did that live stream drafting a team with Jack about 2 weeks ago on ESPN in just a regular fantasy football league, right? Guys that don't necessarily watch every YouTube video. They're not spending 1,000 hours going into the season trying to map out their year. And what we saw in that draft is Achane fall to the end of the 4th, the beginning of the 5th round. And I would love to say, oh no, that's just a one-time thing. You're not seeing that Achane price consistently. But you go ahead and you look at ESPN ADP at this point. ESPN ADP in drafts had Devonhnhnhn at RB16 as a mid running back 2, going behind guys like Alvin Kamara, James Cook, Josh Jacobs, and Joe Mixon. So if you're in that regular fantasy football draft, I actually think you can make a very compelling case to go out there and send an offer to bring in Achane, given the efficiency that we saw last year. And while, yes, we should expect that efficiency to come down and regress naturally, where you actually have some room for improvement is going to be with his receiving role. And you kind of already see this with what Underdog's putting out there when it comes to their pick'ems in week 1. Underdog has the Achane pick'em at the moment for him to have 22.5 receiving yards this week. Now, if we can get that type of receiving involvement, and we have the red zone role, the hope for Achane is not that he turns into a running back that's going to see 20 plus touches a game. The hope for Achane is he can turn into prime Alvin Kamara. He can turn into prime Aaron Jones. And while I'm definitely more confident that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to do that, because we've already seen Gibbs be an elite receiver out of the backfield, I think Achane has that in his range of outcomes. I think he has that ceiling. So if I was drafting Achane or if I was going to trade for him, do I want to pay a mid running back 1 price tag? No, I don't think there's really that much upside at that cost. Give me Saquon, give me JT. But if you're in your regular fantasy football casual league where your league mates aren't just absolutely diehard, somebody drafted Achane as their mid RB2 and you can trade for him at a low end RB1 price tag, I think that's a price that you have room for some upside. Now, speaking of discrepancies between high stakes drafts and normal fantasy football leagues, Rico Dowdle is another running back in that draft that I did with Jack that we got at the very, very end of the draft. I've seen some people saying that, oh, I play in a 10-team league and Rico Dowdle's on my waiver wire. I have no idea how that's possible. If he's on your waivers, you go get him right this second. Because right now, drafters in high stakes leagues are actually pricing in Rico Dowdle to be the starting running back in Dallas. You see this with this underdog ADP going at RB36, whereas Ezekiel Elliott's being drafted as RB43. Whereas if you flip and look at just the regular fantasy football leagues, there Ezekiel Elliott is going at RB33. Rico Dowdle is going at RB49. Now in the flock league, to be honest with you, I'm not going to be able to send an offer for Rico Dowdle. Danny has him. Danny knows what's up. He's not going to be giving me Dowdle, but I think that this is a backfield where it's not like Ezekiel Elliott is guaranteed to be the starting RB. Right now, I would view it almost as a 50-50 between these two backs. Obviously, Dalvin Cook coming in does muddy things if you expect Dalvin Cook to have any role whatsoever. But what we know is this is going to be a phenomenal offense. And what's really nice about this situation is if you were to go through and throw Rico Dowdle on the bottom end of your roster and he does absolutely nothing, right? Because there is a possibility that it's Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook season in Dallas. That Dallas just loves their washed up running backs. And in that case, you will get that clarity early on and you could potentially move on from Rico Dowdle and open up that roster spot. But there's also an outside chance that Dalvin just has nothing anymore, is not used whatsoever, that Ezekiel Elliott is a washed up running back in his own right based off the efficiency that we've seen fall for 4 straight seasons now. So this is another instance. If you're in a league where all your buddies are watching every single YouTube video, they're doing all the research, don't bother sending an offer for Rico Dowdle. But just in a regular ESPN draft, I think that it's a very fine price. If you look at the week 1 pick'ems that you have for Rico versus Ezekiel Elliott, I was surprised to see the rushing yardage mark for Rico Dowdle is 26.5 yards higher or lower, and Ezekiel Elliott is at 34.5 rushing yards higher or lower. So I actually wouldn't mind going with Rico Dowdle to have more than 26.5 rushing yards week 1 either. I would just be careful because it is a tough matchup against Cleveland. But of course, if you wanted to check out that pick'em, or if you want to go get a special Travis Kelce pick'em more than less than half a total yard for NFL kickoff, a Christian McCaffrey special pick'em more than less than half a total yard as well, that's exclusive to Flock users, plus a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. You can find all of that with the link in the description and comment section. If you use code FLOCK, you're going to get everything that we talked about, plus my 2024 rankings, draft guide, and ADP consensus cheat sheet. But let's move over to another backfield where there is a discrepancy between the high stakes drafters and the normal drafters. So right now, if you look at Cincinnati, how I would be ranking these guys is I think Chase Brown, Zach Moss, it is pretty much a toss-up between the two players. If you look at high stakes drafts right now, Chase Brown's going as RB29, Zach Moss is going as RB33. To be honest with you, I wouldn't mind the idea of buying into either one of these running backs, because what we've seen in years past is actually where the league-winning running backs come from in the later rounds isn't just traditionally, the top backup, right? It's not like we have a lot of Tyler Algiers coming out winning leagues and all you need is the Bijan Robinson injury. Typically, where the league winners come from is we actually see these uncertain backfields where ADPs are depressed from both players, leading to unique outcomes where there is an outside chance that Chase Brown comes out and he sees 70% of the backfield in Cincinnati. There is that outside chance that Zach Moss comes out and sees 70% of the backfield in Cincinnati. And what you have here is the added bonus that the Cincinnati Bengals offense, while we may not necessarily know who their starting running back is, we know this should be an offense that will score a lot of points based around what Las Vegas sportsbooks are putting out, currently projecting the Bengals to be the 6th highest scoring offense in the NFL this season. I think between Chase Brown, Zach Moss, you pretty much go and buy whoever's cheaper between the two. This is a perfect example of a running back that you want to have on your bench and see what their roles are early in the season. If you look at the underdog pick'ems between the two running backs right now, you actually have a 1.6x multiplier for Chase Brown to score a touchdown. You only have a 1.25x multiplier for Zach Moss to do so. You have Zach Moss higher lower 47.5 rushing yards. You have Chase Brown higher lower 34.5 rushing yards. And Zach Moss at the same time is sitting there with a similar projection when it comes to the receiving volume. So if you look at underdog pick'ems, currently they are pricing in Zach Moss to be the RB1. Now, going ahead and looking at Josh Jacobs, I'm sure y'all are tired of hearing me talk about Jacobs. We've done it for years now, but especially this season, where my hot take, which sounds like people are starting to agree with me, that Josh Jacobs outscores Derrick Henry in a full PPR format. I think it's the correct take. I think Jacobs just absolutely crushes this season. Jacobs is still incredibly young, coming from Las Vegas. This is a running back that was the youngest RB in his 2019 class. He was drafted at 20 years old coming out of Alabama. So unlike the veteran running backs such as Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry that are changing teams, you don't really need to worry about the age with Josh Jacobs and seeing a fall off there. Plus, A.J. Dillon being out for the season, Marshawn Lloyd being banged up during training camp is setting up for Josh Jacobs to have the traditional 3-down bell cow workload that he saw with the Raiders. Plus, you add on the fact that the Green Bay Packers paid Josh Jacobs an insane amount of money to come over to Green Bay. He's making a lot more than Derrick Henry is in Baltimore. And what's most exciting is just seeing the receiving projection. Right now, if you are looking at the underdog pick'em that you have for Jacobs, they currently have Jacobs at 84.5 total yards for week 1 against Philly. Keep in mind, this is a tough matchup as well against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think going forward, you could reasonably see Jacobs in a good matchup projecting out to score, 100 total yards each and every week. Now, going over and looking at our next running back, this is somebody that I regrettably passed on in the Flock League. I was an idiot. I thought he was already off the board. That's what I get for drafting off vibes. But Kenneth Walker is somebody that really won training camp, won the preseason this year, because looking at this backfield, Zach Charbonnet is an extremely talented running back. To be honest with you, if Zach Charbonnet was in this year's rookie class, I would have Zach Charbonnet as the RB1. Now, with that being said, obviously that's not the case. And with that being said, what we've actually seen with this coaching staff, the new offensive coordinators come out and they've said, yeah, you know what? Kenneth Walker is a great receiving back. Kenneth Walker can run routes. Kenneth Walker can catch the ball. We're planning on using Kenneth Walker on third down. And if that's the case here, I think Kenneth Walker has just an insane level ceiling. Now, the issue that you're going to have with Walker is if you want to make a trade for him, you're going to have to do so before week 1. Week 1, he has a beautiful matchup going up against the Denver Broncos. You actually have his underdog pick'em at 82.5 total yards, very similar to Josh Jacobs. And obviously Kenneth Walker is somebody that's only being valued as an RB2. Right now, if you're looking at the guys that he's being valued around, specifically in ESPN drafts, Walker was the RB17 off the board. DeAndre Swift was the RB18. Ramondre Stevenson was the RB19. So you know what I'm going to do right now? Now, obviously in the Flock League, if y'all saw the video, Avery said he had no interest in trading for Ramondre Stevenson, blah, blah, blah. He's my rival in the league. So, I mean, there's a little bit of stuff going on there. But anyway, he has Kenneth Walker. I have Ramondre Stevenson, and I would love to potentially make a 2-for-1 deal where I can sell Ramondre Stevenson in another piece to get that upgrade in the starting lineup. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to offer Avery, Stevenson, and Spears and see if in return I can get back Kenneth Walker. But you know what? Instead of offering Spears right away, I'm going to offer Austin Ekeler, and then I'll be willing to counter with Spears if he rejects this. But yeah, that's how I would be looking to potentially go through and get Kenneth Walker. I would be looking for that 2-for-1 deal where I'm trying to package together somebody like Ramondre Stevenson, somebody like DeAndre Swift to get up and get Walker. What's funny enough is in the Flock League, I also have DeAndre Swift. So I may have to send him a message saying, man, if you want to switch Stevenson and Swift, I'm game as well. But let's move over to our next running back. Our next running back is going to be Austin Ekeler. So I'm going to have a hard time selling you on Ekeler here. Every single person and their mom absolutely hates Austin Ekeler. We all saw the clip that went viral earlier in the offseason with Ekeler and his breakaway run where the man was slower than a turtle. I legitimately think I may be faster than Austin Ekeler at this point. Now, obviously, I am not just taking this and running with it and saying this is the only reason we trade for Austin Ekeler, but you did have Ekeler on a podcast earlier, I believe, on Yahoo, going through and saying, yeah, that clip was because both my ankles were completely taped up. I could not really run at all. I shouldn't have even been playing. I was hurt, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it's true, but what I do know is the hate with Austin Ekeler has gotten so extreme that recently on an Instagram post where I posted my team in the Flock League, the comments were saying, I don't know why anybody would draft Austin Ekeler, even though that they saw I got Austin Ekeler at the very, very end of the draft in a full PPR format. So if you were having to draft Austin Ekeler as your RB2, if that's how your league mates are valuing him, I have absolutely no interest. But I got Austin Ekeler in the 11th round in my full PPR draft. So if you can get Austin Ekeler as a throw-in in another deal, I think that would be very appealing in that full PPR format, specifically because this is a running back that should see reception volume from week to week perspective. Right now, his underdog pick'em with his receiving yardage mark is at 20.5. But I only want him in a full PPR league, and I preferably want him in a league where we have multiple flex spots as well, so depth matters a little bit more. But I think that's all half of you. I really hope I was able to help you out with this video. I really hope that you were able to get something from this. And of course, if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems that we were talking about in this video, or get a Travis Kelce special pick'em more than less than half a total yard for Thursday night, get a Christian McCaffrey special pick'em more than less than half a total yard for Monday night, and a 50% deposit bonus on Underdog Fantasy. You can find all of that with the link in the description and the comment section. Make sure you use code FLOCK if you want all three of those offers. The CMC specials only for code FLOCK users. And plus, you'll get my 2024 rankings draft guide and ADP consensus cheat sheet. But I think that's all I got for you. Really do appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day, and hope we get to see you out with the live stream later tonight.